morning everybody, or afternoon or evening, wherever you are. Hello Alicia, and hello to Mum who is watching. Hi. The board's getting dirty. Need a new one. So I'm the last of the Victorian Colorathon streamers. Yay! Hi guys, hi Shannon, hi Sue, hi Kathy. Welcome guys, come in, welcome. Yeah, this one is beautiful. It's by Eeva Nikunen. I have popped the link in the description below guys, so if you want to check it out there you can. Also, it's here. So this is a Patreon only image, or a patron exclusive image from Eva's Patreon page. She doesn't actually sell individual colouring pages. She does have one colouring book, but she doesn't sell these pages. She only gives them to patrons. So worth checking it out. Hello peoples. Hi Deb. Hi Chai, and hi Leslie. Welcome. I've just been in Nick and Tina's stream for a minute before, and just in the spirit of that, I have a knock knock joke. So knock knock. I'm not answering until somebody says it. Who's there? Thank you. Noble, Nobel Prize, Noble, and Nobel who? Nobel, so I did have to knock. Alright, anyway, that's enough of that. Stupid jokes. We get there. Nobel. Anyway, sorry. Bad joke. We're having bad jokes all over down there. So today, I'm over it. At least somebody laughed. Me, I laughed. It's not as funny when you have to laugh at your own jokes here on the other side of the camera. But here I am, laughing at myself. I'm going to use some Pablos today. I don't have the Pablo tin anymore, so I'll just show you my colour charts here. I love Pablos. Very pretty. And, oh, somehow a Prismacolor pencil got in here. Just get rid of that. Got a whole heap of pencils actually out of there. Must have been using them for something. Must have been. Joe Beth, thanks and welcome. Hi Loretta, welcome guys. Come in. Hi Abby. I actually did an image of Eva's, oh gosh, it must have been last year. Let me pop it up and you can have a look at it. There it is. Winter Prelude. Absolutely beautiful image, and I used Prismacolor pencils for that one. It took me ages. There is a video speed coloring of it on my channel, and also there is a Patreon exclusive video where I show how to do it. Now that one was actually a dark grayscale like the current one we're going to do today, so very similar style. It's just a different picture. She is beautiful. I love her. I love the fox too. So yeah, we're going to do this one today. And I'm going to use Pablo pencils, Caran Pablos. And Alicia is going to put a list of, collect my colours that I'm going to be using today, and we can put a list up for patrons later on. We good? We're good. We are good. Now we've still got a few coming in, so I'm going to wait a couple of minutes and we will get started. Hi Helen, welcome. Come in. Come in. Oh, Loretta, no, you can keep that. I don't want a headache, thanks. Thanks for offering. Thanks for offering. So just wishing my middle daughter good luck on her indicative exams. They start for 3 days this week. And also big congratulations to Alicia for winning her state calisthenics competition. Very proud of you, and you did so well. So, and also big thanks to my son, who's actually looking after Nani right now. Keeping her occupied. No, she only sells her actual original art on Etsy. She doesn't sell any images or any coloring pages. She has a coloring book. If you Google her name, she has her own website. She has a book. But to get these coloring pages, you do need to be a patron of hers. So she does only give them to patrons. And usually she gives, I think it's, anyone else is a patron of hers might be able to confirm, but I think she does 2 a month. So someone wants to just jump in. It could be only 1 a month. I could be wrong because, yeah. It's been a while since I was a patron. So I was a patron for quite a few months, and I like to sort of split my loyalties and money over a few different artists. So I like to swap and change and make sure that I get a little bit of everyone and help out a little bit of everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Jubes is my mum. I already knew that, mother. Hi, Maria, welcome. Oh, thanks, Shannon. I love grayscale. It is one of my... Oh, Loretta, you'll get there. I love grayscale. It is one of my favorites to do. So yeah, and as I said, I have done a few of these on Patreon. So yeah, I have. Her original image of this is beautiful, and I'm going to kind of go with the same kind of colors that she's used in hers, or similar. I think I might add a little bit more blue. She's got greens in hers, but I think I might go with blue base in this one. She's very pretty. Very, very pretty. Hi, Connie. Welcome. 1 a month. There you go. Thanks, Connie, for that. So she may have done a few when I was her patron where she gave extras or had something special or something like that. I actually have quite a few of hers now. So, but she's got a whole heap of really nice Halloween images. So I've got a few of those that I think I might get to next month. So next month I'm going to try and concentrate everything on Halloween. So all of the color, the 4-week color along will be a Halloween image, and also all of the Mondays that I do over the month of October will be Halloween based as well. So we'll have a few Halloween pictures coming through. Also I picked Eeva and Tiana for Saturday's one because I wanted to do something a little bit different. I think a lot of us have Hannah Lynn and a lot of us have Alina Lazareva's Victorian colouring book, so I wanted to do something slightly different. Yes, that's right, you do. So if you were to join Eva's Patreon, all of the previous Patreon months colouring pages are left on Patreon for you to grab. The same with Jasmine Beckett. She does the same thing, and Yana Prosperina does the same thing. There's a few others that do the same thing, so it's worth being a patron. You can go back and collect all of the previous ones and anything coming up in the future as well. So fantastic. Hi Eva, welcome. Lots of fun and beautiful images. I'd love to have her book, but it works out to almost $100 to have it shipped here, so a little bit too much for me. If it was a PDF, obviously I'd be jumping on it, but it is only a physical book, so yeah. I think it's like £25, but then you've got to add postage and everything else. So, and pounds is almost double here in Australia, so £25 is probably around $50 here. So, and then you've got postage on top of that. But there you go. All right. So I guess it's 10 o'clock, so we might just get started. I probably won't finish this one today because its pencil, I think it might take me a little while. We might be able to get a fair bit of it done. Grayscale usually is a little bit quicker than line art, so we may be okay. I was going to start with the skin because it's in the, usually I start with the skin because it's in the middle of the page. So working from the middle out is always a good idea, or working top down, just so you don't smudge your pencil. And I dropped my pencil before when I was talking, so just erase that. Welcome back, Chai, and welcome, Holly. Thank you so much for joining, guys. It's been a great weekend. Heaps of streamers, all looking beautiful. Hi, Nika. Is it Nisa or Nika or Nai? I don't know. I don't think I have you on my list. I've got a whole list of people here and their actual names next to them. Yeah, you're not on there. Pretty sure. Just looking again. Caroline. Oh, okay. I'll write that one down on my list. Thank you. I probably should write a Neenah one. I've got little scribbles everywhere. And yeah. All right. All right, let's see if I can zoom in a little bit for us all. She's so pretty. Now, the actual coloured version, or the grayscale version, was actually darker. I actually printed it slightly lighter. So in the print settings, you can change the percentage of the colour. So I've reduced it by about 20%. So it's slightly lighter, which makes it a little bit easier when coming into these really dark areas. If I printed it full, this will be black and it's harder to see the pencil over the top of it. So I've just done it slightly lighter for that reason. Okay. So I've got some mahogany first, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to mark out all of the dark shaded areas of her skin first. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. And yeah, how's everyone been enjoying this weekend? And what's everyone been up to? I didn't get to drop into everybody's streams. She has a lot of hair and it's coming all over her face here. So I'm just doing really light pressure, laying this down. I may use a little bit of blending solution if I want this to go slightly quicker. But I think we'll be right. I think we will have plenty of time, because a lot of this background is the same color, so there won't be a lot of work in those areas. You've loved it, Jo Beth. Awesome, Helen. Everybody seems to be really enjoying it. Hi, Pat. Welcome. Hi, James. Welcome. You watched a lot of streams, Leslie. You need to catch up. You miss so much when you're working. I get that. We've just started school holidays here in Victoria. So spring break holidays. Except for my middle one, Faith. She's doing her indicative exam, so she doesn't go on holidays for another few days, and neither does Alicia. Do you, Alicia? You've still got this week as well. Everyone's saying hi. Cheese, wine, and chat session. Oh, that's always good. Thanks, Jamie. You're going to visit tomorrow? So she's called, what is she called? The Sun and Moon or something like that? I can't remember. What's my description of the video? She reached for the sun and the moon. This one's called. There's no sun in it though. Oh, the sun's on her crown. I did do a whole heap of Pablo skin mixes on Patreon if you're interested in seeing those. Using one of those today. They didn't wear a lot of makeup in Victorian times, did they? Or was it more like white powder and just, you know, pinching the cheeks to create pink blush cheeks? Some natural beauty. Hi Shelley, welcome. I love that, Abby Ringmaster. Hello Ringmaster. Shelley has a group that is Colouring Carnival, is it? Is that what it's called, Shelley? Great little group. Lots of different little activities and challenges. It's always good to have a chat, Eva, isn't it? Oh, tomorrow's special Australian time is going to be 9 p.m. Why do I keep getting little notifications on my computer? It's driving me crazy. 9 p.m. we're going to do it. So we've got Laura and May joining me tomorrow night. It's around 36 hours roughly away, 35 hours away. It's going to be a bit of fun, our little challenges that we've been doing. May and I have done a couple of those now. I think May's done a fair few of them with me now. But we have the lovely Laura Rafferty coming. And we're going to be colouring a Kirby Rosane's image from Colourmorphia or Imagimorphia. The images in both books. And we're going to be doing a bit of a colour challenge with a little bit of a twist in there. It's got to be a twist, otherwise it's not funny. We really want it to be funny. It's the whole reason we're doing it, so to have a bit of fun. Going down to the hands, and I'm actually going to put a fair bit of blue and purple down in these areas. but we'll just add in some shadows. Down the bottom. Yeah, you're probably right, Maria. It would have been up. But I liked the dress and I figured that's pretty Victorian looking. She looks like a queen, so she's probably more it's probably from a different era altogether, actually, thinking about it. But that's okay. She looks Victorian to me, so let's just pretend it is. All right, I'm going to come over the top with let's go Venetian red. Oh, squeaky chair. See, I need a new chair. I was talking to my mum about it the other night. My chair is very squeaky and I need a new one. Venetian red. It's kind of an orange. Let's see if I can find it. So that was the mahogany there, and this is Venetian red. Oh, tomorrow, yeah, tomorrow night, my time. So I'm not sure what it is for everyone else. I think for Laura it was like 7 in the morning, and for May it was 1 in the afternoon. So it will be on Tuesday for pretty much everyone. I don't think it's because it's the end of my Tuesday. Everyone else is sort of starting their Tuesday, so. I'll pop up a thing about it in the group and in the reminder, live reminder group as well there, so you can see it there. I haven't organized the live links or anything yet, because what happens is when I do them ahead of time, they kind of get lost down the list. I like to do them just beforehand so that they come up in the right timeline order. Can get confusing by having me already organize that link and then adding this one on top of that. Yeah, it just gets a bit messy. Too OCD. I like it in order, chronological order. Just going over the top of the mahogany and adding in this orange color. Venetian red. Is it Venetian? Yes, it is. I'm right this time. Okay. If I disappeared, it's my pewter. Okay. No worries, Eva. Yeah, I think it's around 7, usually around 7:30, but I'm doing 9 o'clock one this time instead of 9:30, so that's tomorrow for me. Tomorrow evening, while Alicia's at calisthenics practice. Got one more big competition, yeah, in Ballarat. So, oh yes, that's right. I won't be streaming that weekend. Leaving on the Saturday, so I won't be doing the Monday. For patrons, I'm going to be releasing a dragon video sometime today for you from the Dragon Assorted by Elizabeth Best. I'll be doing a flip through and a speed colouring as well. I used Coloursoft pencils for that one. And I used them on different paper, and I actually quite liked how they worked on different paper. I'd only previously tried them with this Neenah Classic. Actually, you know what? I don't think I printed this on Neenah. It feels weird. Now I've just said that. This might not come out right. I just had this funny feeling that I printed it on marker paper. And it's not blending properly, so I could be right. I could have printed it on the wrong paper. Feels really smooth, so we'll see how we go. It might not go well. I'm thinking maybe I should print out a new one onto Neenah now before I get any further. Or you guys, I think I will do that because I don't want to mess it up and I want to finish it today. I don't think I'm going to have very much luck blending on it. Oh dear, aren't I silly? Let's go in with some salmon. I'll just see how it looks. What a silly person. I think I originally was going to do it because everything that happened with Jo Beth, I was originally going to do it with markers, and yeah, I can't blend. Alright, give me a sec. I'm just going to reprint this one. Goodness me. Lucky I mentioned paper then, because I wouldn't have remembered that I'd done that, and I would have been getting really frustrated with it. What is wrong with this thing? Let's try that again. She does have her own shop. While that's printing, I'll grab it for you. No, they're not. She has basic line art versions of some of the images as well as the grayscale like this. So they're all slightly different. Shelley, they're not all the same. She doesn't have all... Oh, most of them are like portrait type things, but she also has a couple of cats, a mermaid. She's got a couple of Victorian kind of looking ladies. And she's also got this old foresty looking tree. There's a few others, but I haven't seen any of the recent ones that she's posted up. So, but most of them, artist wise, it's pretty good, isn't it? That's a bit better. They printed it on Neenah. And it's, the other picture had cut off some of it. So, Oh. I've just posted her website in the chat. Going back to mahogany again. Let's try that again on Neenah Classic Crest this time. Anyway, that's what I was saying. For the colour softs, I tried the Strathmore Bristol Vellum paper with them. And I actually really liked it. So it worked really well. There was a little bit of smudging, but I was much happier with the way the colour came out on that than it did on the Neenah. So some pencils actually work better on different paper. I did know that already, but I always try to give Neenah a go first because I like it and I can use different mediums on it. I can use a little bit of marker, pencil, a small amount of water-based stuff on it as well. But yeah, I really quite liked the Bristol vellum. I'm glad I purchased a couple of pads of it. I want to do a grayscale or grey lead portrait. So the lovely Helen organised for me to get some pencils from Blick. And also, don't forget those stickles. Could use stickles on this actually. Put some sparkles on it. Just moving a little bit quicker if I can to get through past this bit since we've kind of already done this. I could probably finish that other one with markers if I wanted to. It's going down a lot smoother on this paper. I was trying to figure out why I was getting lines and bumps through it. The other paper was Express It blending card. I was going to use that with markers. Alright, let's get back to some Venetian red. Bit of trouble with Nani this morning. She was a little bit annoyed that her daddy went out early this morning. Took me a little while to get her settled again. He has 3 weeks for full-on work, so she's going to have to get used to it. He's not going to be here in the mornings. And her shadow didn't make it very simple for me either, because she seems to stir the dog a little bit. And, you know, she's bossy. So when she wants to sleep on the bed too, she gets very bossy and tells Nani off. So, and then Nani gets really uncomfortable and fusses, and because she wants to, you know, see the cat. Oh dear, it's a mess. But so cute. Back down to the hands here, and then I'm going to go in with some salmon. Over the top. Fairy tales. Oh, are they beautiful? Are they Red Riding Hood? I don't think I've seen the Red Riding Hood. Sounds good. So this is salmon. I'm going to fill in a fair bit of the skin with this one. I know my printer does print really fast. I did see your message earlier and I forgot to say something then. pretty groovy. I've got it on fast print though. So next month there will be another colorathon, I should say. I keep calling it a color along. I had to go back and redo all my posts yesterday because I accidentally wrote color along instead of colorathon in my posts for the image I did. Oops. But we've got a spooky one, a Halloween one coming up in October. I think I'm only doing one this time, actually, the last one of the colorathon again. As it's the weekend of Alicia's final calisthenics concert, so busy times. She's already starting to come alive. So with grayscale, the most important thing is to make sure that we colour over all of the actual grey areas, because that will make it look more realistic. So if you can still see black or grey underneath, you may need to go back in with some more layers just to cover that up. But you want to use that grayscale as a guide as well. Next we have, I'm just going to have a look here, what colour. I'm going to go with apricot. Apricot. Connie, the two furry babies haven't got along yet. For $5, that's right, Eva, you do get a fair bit. It's the same with Jasmine Beckett. You pay up front when you join, and you get access to all previous pages that she's done. Just coming lightly over all of the skin now. Need to add a layer over the top of these really light areas as well, so that we can build up some pencil on there. Yes, Ennis is the same, you're right. I think there's a couple that I was with that didn't. Hannah Lynn doesn't. You only get the next month's. And there's another one that didn't. Actually, that might be it. I think Christine Caran, but Christine Caran's is only $1 a month, so I don't mind paying that. Or Christine's left there as well, Shelley. I can't remember. Maybe they are left there. I think you can go back and get Christine's other ones as well. Is that correct? I think the only one I know of is actually Hannah Lynn. Oh, Lisa Matrokin, hers have been really good. She's been doing heaps of content. Really busy on her Patreon page. She's really interactive with everybody, great fun. She's got some great little tutorials as well. She's looking orange at the moment, isn't she? It's okay, we're going to go and add in some colour over the top of this and really give it a bit more pink. Using some Granite Rose, which is one of my favourite colours in this set, and also a little bit of cream or ivory, either one is fine. Cream it is, I think, in this set. Yep, so Granite Rose first, and then we're going to use some cream. And my pencils aren't actually sharp. I've left them quite blunt so it doesn't indent the paper straight away. But if it's easier for you, make sure you sharpen your pencils and keep your pencils on more of a horizontal angle when you colour, and it won't put as much pressure down. You keep forgetting to look and see. I was right, was I, Shelley? So Christine's only stay up for the month. They've been mailed, Helen. I got my tracking number. You should have received a tracking number already. So I already did a flip through of the Best of Hannah Lynn colouring book from the PDF, but we've been waiting for the physical copies for quite a while now, and they've finally been posted out to everybody, so we should start seeing them shortly, I would say. Obviously those in the US are going to get them a lot quicker. Sounds like I'm putting pressure down, but I'm not. And also my mic is sitting on my desk again, so you might be getting a lot of the noise from that too. Sorry. I forgot to do a bit of a tester this week. Just going over it in a few directions to make sure I've covered all of the tooth of the paper as well, so they can get a nice smooth finish. You don't have to have a smooth finish. I like a smooth finish, but it doesn't have to have one. That whole OCD thing again. Get the hands down here. I'm going to be putting some blue down in here, so I haven't put much pressure down here at all, and I've had it nice and light. And then I've got cream over the top. No, yes, cream, sorry. I think I get those moments off you, Mum. It's gotten worse. I did what and I said what? I don't remember that. Cameron calls it selective memory. You only remember what you want to remember. Faces looking pretty good. I do have usually a set range of colours that I'll use for skin. Excuse me. Usually I'll add in a few extra colours depending on the actual image. So I'm going to add some blues into her hands down here, and maybe a tiny little bit onto her skin as well, because I'll be using that in the background. So it depends on what I'm actually doing, I guess. But there usually is, I'll usually use a dark brown of some sort, usually a red brown or a purple brown. And then I'll use a little bit of an orange tone, a little bit of a pink tone, and then some sort of yellow tone as well. And all mixed together, usually you get something quite nice out of that. I do want to add a little bit of some ruby red into the cheeks. She's got some nice pink coloured cheeks, so I want to add that in just a little bit here. So this is ruby red. And a little bit on this side. Just a tiny little bit up here on her nose too, I think. Just into her lips a little bit in the darker areas. I want them to kind of be more neutral coloured too, so I'm going to go back in with the salmon. Going over the top of that. And it's just going to go back in with the cream. Actually, this side needs a little bit more ruby red. And a little bit of cream just to blend that out, make it nice and smooth. I need a little bit more ruby red. It's not quite as even as I want. Oh, you know what? Kenny must have fallen asleep. Oh, a particular brand that I like of pencils. Is that what you're meaning? If you were to go and join her Patreon for a month, you can get all her previous images. It's only $5 US a month, but you can cancel at any time. You do have to pay immediately upon joining though. I don't have a particular brand that I like more than any others either. Probably my Polys. I don't know, Prisma's got nice skin colours too. They're all nice. I actually got quite a nice skin blend from the Colour Softs and also the Lightfast, the Derwent Lightfast as well. I still have to get the second set of that actually. I've only got the one set. I wouldn't mind trying those on the Strathmore paper as well. That will be good. I'm just going to add a little bit of blue in here, but I want it to be quite light. I'm going to go with sky blue. Just adding a tiny little bit into the shadow side of her skin. I haven't done cream on this section yet either, because I knew that I was going to be adding a few more colours in there, especially in those shadows. And also in her hands I want to add some of this too. Okay. Now I'm going to be using a little bit of purple in here as well. So I've got periwinkle blue, which is kind of a purpley blue. Brand favourite for skin tones, not questioning well. I don't really have one. They're all good. Probably Polychromos and Prismacolor have good skin tones. Oh, and gosh, I'm completely missing a whole set in the mix. Don't forget Luminance. I really like Luminance skin tones too. Absolutely beautiful to work with. Actually, I could do that one day. I don't usually mix mediums up very much, but I really do like the Luminance. Just coming back over with cream to blend this out. I think there was something under my page. Finishing this off now with the cream. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And hello, Alf, welcome. And Rochelle, did I miss you before? And Kimmy, welcome, guys. Sorry, I just saw that you were there as well. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the big blue house. Thanks, Rochelle. Just comes together really well. I'm actually going to use some Luminance white today and do some of these highlights. I guess I love markers for skin tones. Markers are awesome for skin tones. And I really do like to use the PanPastels and the Stabilo Carbothello pencils for skin touch-ups as well. They're awesome. In fact, we can use PanPastel instead of Luminance white. We can use PanPastel white or the Carbothello white. There's lots of different mediums that you can mix with one another. Okay, I'll just zoom out so you can see that. I think it's still a little bit too pale looking. I think I need a little bit more depth. Going back in with a bit of mahogany again. I've already got a nice thick layer of pencil, so this is kind of just gliding over it now. Just making sure I've covered over all of the grey lines. Gee, that made her nose look kind of weird, didn't it? A little bit like Porky Pig there now. I'm so sorry, beautiful queen. She might chop off my head now. Please don't. Oh, that's a little better. A little bit more down the bottom. Just going to blend that out a tiny bit with the cream. Luminance white, because I couldn't bother getting the PanPastels out just to do these highlighted areas, just on the chin, a little bit lighter, and just on the top of the eyelids. A little bit lighter. Still Luminance white there. Just on those lighter sections. Also, a great product is a Posca pen, so Posca paint pen, or I've got this one, the Pintor Pilot paint pen. This one was, I think pigment ink this one was, but they're very similar. And I just use it to blend, or just dab a little bit on it and just blend it out with my finger, just to give us those really nice bright highlights. Just zoom in a little bit. Just got some of that sky blue. Just going to put a little bit of this in the eyes. The tiniest little section of the eyes, but hi Lulu, welcome. Hi Christy, welcome. I'm going to add a little bit of the periwinkle blue that we used in the skin as well, just around the whites of the eye to add a little bit of shadow. Using a little bit of the salmon around the waterline of the eye. And white, the Pablo one. Just make sure that's clean though. In the whites of the eyes. And around that waterline. Doing it just lightly on the coloured part as well, just to lighten that slightly. Blend it off a little bit. And then I'm just going to add some highlights using the paint pen. Using a really sharp black. I'm using the ivory black because the Pablo's has 2 blacks in it. This area is so tiny. Yeah, that looks so piercing black, doesn't it? She's looking amazing, yeah? No, she's looking really strange right this second. Let me just go and fill out her lashes on the top. I've made her eyes look really closed. They're kind of little slits. Give her some eyelashes, that might help. Can you use the sky blue? Hi Yolanda, welcome. And I'm just going to colour in some of her hair down here in the shadows first. I don't want there to be grey, I want to make sure that there's colour on all of this. Adding a bit of the periwinkle blue as well. A bit more sky blue. I'm really concentrating. I might need to have to go off and have a little bit of a bathroom break in a sec. I'm going to give a sort of blondie coloured hair. I'm going to start with this stuff. Coming into some of these shadow areas. Now I'm starting to mark out some shapes in the hair. There's like curls through it, waves down the bottom there as well. I'm going to make it kind of, I want to make it white with some blonde through it. We'll see. It will come out alright in the end. So I'm coming over all of the dark grey lines in the hair with this colour. So we're creating a little bit of shape. It does call. Hi Diane, welcome. We do have a few. We've got Australia, US. Who else is here? Who else is Canada? I don't know. Okay, I'm going to leave you there for a sec. Her eyes look so funny. I'm going to need to fix that one. I think it's still a little bit too... Oh, that widened it up a little bit. Okay. Be right back, guys. Hi guys, back. Hello Kenny. Welcome. Hi Laura, welcome. Come in, come in. Hi Linda, welcome. Yeah, I kind of stuffed her around at the start. I messed up and was doing pencil on marker paper, and it doesn't work very well. Did you know that? I'm still using Bister at the moment, or Bistre, however you guys say it. Just in the hair areas. So Laura, did you only do one stream for the Victorian one? One beautiful stream, if it was. Okay, and now I've got a little bit of hazel. Nope, that's not hazel. Wait. Hazel. Hazel. Oh, Laura. Busy, busy girl. Hi, Kimmy. Welcome. I think I said welcome before, didn't I? See, selective forgetfulness. Because this is so detailed, I'm just doing squiggly lines everywhere, trying to cover some of this grey areas, or these grey areas. Now let's see if we can add a little bit of light ochre. It's golden. Where's light ochre? Light ochre. It's coming in. Just going to gradually fill these areas in with colour, and then we can go over everything with a bit of white because I want it kind of white blonde, so we can use white, but I want to make sure that we get plenty of colour in these darker areas so it's not just grey. Don't want grey, guys. Don't want grey. It's funny, grayscale is my favourite and I'm saying I don't want grey. We want to colour over all of the grey. Give it that realistic look. So there's a few areas down here that are too orange. I just want to add a little bit more blue in those. That sky blue I used earlier. Hi Dawn, welcome. Thank you so much, Kimmy. just coming over those orangey coloured areas. A bit more blue. And then a little bit more purple again. This is a periwinkle blue. So she's got a veil on, so the veil's covering up a lot of hair and it's quite white under that veil. So I'm going to put a little bit of the, I'm thinking the periwinkle blue. Let's just do a really light layer in there. Just showing some of those curls of hair. I'm going to use a little bit of cream and start to fill in these areas. Leaving this outside area, I actually think I want to do white over some of those. So just lightly going in there. Sometimes I don't know what I'm going to do, so I'll just do it. And then usually we know when I'm recording a video, I'll just go along and I'll do it. And then when I'm voice recording later on, I'll be like, what was I doing there? Why did I do that? I don't know, I just did it. Because I thought it might look good at the time. Hi Sanka, welcome. How interesting is that? I've done 2 images for the Victorian Colorathon that have had veils. Very interesting. So I've got this kind of golden blonde, sort of white with gold through it. I don't know how do you explain this blonde hair, but kind of white blonde. Someone make up a colour for this hair for me. All the way down. Now, white. Luminance white. Where are you? Platinum blonde? Kind of, I guess. You could, maybe. It's more, I don't know, it's kind of got a golden colour to it though. I can't see, where's my zoom in button? There we go. White, Luminance because it's nice and thick. On the very edges and over all of the really highlighted areas of hair now. Trying to miss the grey areas if I can, because we still want to have some depth in there. So just a couple of spots through there. Yeah, sandy blonde maybe. Not Titan. It's something blonde. You know what, it's likely that it's actually golden blonde, but because she's in the dark and she's got a lot of light reflecting, and also we've got our veil, it's going to look a little bit more white, isn't it? Just want it all to smudge in together though, the colour. I don't want to be too defined in any areas if we can. Alright, let's do white around the outside of this moon. Just highlight a couple of areas here on her skin. Gradually getting the look that I want. Alright, now underneath the veil I'm going to add some dark blue. But to make it, or give it the illusion that it's actually dark blue, we want to add a lighter blue under it. Let's have a look. What have we got for blues? Night sky, hey? Let me look at my colour list. Night blue. Maybe some royal blue. And a little bit of bluish grey. Get that sky blue. Let's see what we can do here. Looks like the night blue is going to be the darkest. So So I'm just going to put a really light layer around the veil and just underneath that section there. I'll fix up the background later, but just doing the veil for now. Okay, then do a little bit of the sky blue over the top of that. And then white. I need a little bit more of the night blue down here. And a little bit of sky blue over the top. And then I want to use white over the whole area just to blend that out and make it look like the veil sitting over the top of that dark blue. Keeping the lines in the direction of the veil if we can as well. Just missed her dress a little bit. We'll go back in and do the dress as well, but leaving that part open for now. Just using that white paint pen, adding some bright highlights through there. She looks kind of pale at the moment, but I'm sure she's going to just build in really nicely. Let's add in some, let's go royal blue first, down in the bottom of the dress. So coming out underneath some of the veil area. going around some of the hair so we can see that darker colour under there. What's the time? Goodness me, I thought I would get this close to finish, but too busy stuffing around on marker paper instead of pencil paper, hey? I'm being really rough here and I'm just laying down the colour. Because the white over the top is going to blend most of this out, I'm not going to need to do a really thick base. Hi Michelle, welcome. She's looking cool. Is that what you would call it? Cool? I don't know. That's my word for it. She's looking cool. I'm old. She's looking stunning and beautiful. So this is like white sort of tulle over the top of fabric, I think it's supposed to be looking like. So that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to make those light areas like white over the top if I can. Now I haven't flattened out her hands yet either. Adding a little bit into her hands. It's quite dark down in this area. I'm just making sure there's colour all the way down to the bottom here as well. Okay, then I've got violet. I'm just coming over really lightly over those really light areas and just deepening up down the bottom there with it. Just realised I was probably off camera a little bit there. I love watching you all sit there chatting about your images and what you're doing, things that you've used, everybody helping each other. Really light layer over these light areas though. Now in an image like this, white is your best friend. White makes things look really dramatic and detailed. Sparkly even, depending on what and where you do it. So make sure you use a white gel pen a lot in this, because we've got all these beautiful sparkly areas, all those stars. There's also sparkles all through her hair here, and in the background. We want to make sure we use that if we can. I'm just adding a tiny little bit of purple or violet into the veil area here, just a little bit, just coming up there a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to use white to blend all that out. I'm going to use the Luminance white. Trying not to go over those little stars either. I want to keep them nice and white if I can. But we kind of want to make this look like it's sort of fuzzy, and that some of that veil is coming over that, so around all the stars. Zoom out a little bit again so you can see. I like to zoom back out so that you can see how it's looking or how it's starting to look, so you can get an idea of where I'm heading, the image as a whole. I'm going to try and keep that same diagonal direction that the dress is going in as well. Now, there's a few little white spots down here. I want to make sure I don't miss them with the white gel pen either. So I'm just going to add those in now. You're just coming across the bottom of the dress. There's another lot going down there as well, so I don't want to miss them. Add me in, Michelle. I love grayscale. Yes, Laura, grayscale's awesome. Give us some grayscale images. I know you can. I'm hoping that down here looks a little bit like it's kind of jagged, and that the material's kind of looking, I don't know, so it looks like material over the top, giving it a bit of texture. I'm going to go through a whole heap of Luminance pencil doing this. You could use Prismacolor as well. You don't have to use Luminance. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to finish off this side with the pen. Wait, night blue. I didn't do around this little, I don't know, jewelry item here. Just adding a little bit of that in there. Just drawing out these little stars, just lightening them up, making them look like they're sitting on top of the material and not underneath. I'm going to just pretend that it's part of her veil and dress. Pretties. It's really standing out now. Spots under there. Beautiful. Now where is the violet gone? White. Over the top of the I'm going to make this a little bit lighter. It's on a light section. I'm also going to blend in her hands now. I didn't do that earlier. Just went in with the purple and the blue. Just going to try to highlight some of those areas on her skin there as well. She's really starting to become something here, isn't she? Violet, just really want to add a bit of depth in there. Great. Just adding, kind of come upside down for a minute. I need a different angle to get down to the bottom here. And you can see what I'm doing. So she's actually looking quite pale down there, even though we've got this black grayscale underneath it. I managed to do pretty well. So in this top section here, I'm going to use the night blue for this corner. And I only want to use a white on the really pale section. So I'm actually going to use my full blender, the Caran full blender. And I'm just going to blend that out, because I don't want this light like the rest of it. But these areas here around the outside, just going to give her a bit of a glow. Just give those edges a bit of a glow. Get nice and dark everywhere else. Okay, and then up here I want to add in some royal blue, I think. I think that would look nice against there. So really lightly over the veil in these really light areas. And then darker in the darker areas. Coming over these highlighted areas with the white and the veil. Look at that blue coming through there. Royal blue. Now I did say I might use some solvent here, and I think I will over these sections. I want them to be pretty dark. I've got my Zest-It. I've been using this, I used this at the start of this month's colour along, so I've used it a fair bit this month. But I don't want to do so much colouring in these darker areas. It's going to take me a long time. So let's just blend it out with Zest-It. Give me layers, onion boy. Sorry, I like Donkey and Shrek. Just gonna keep going with royal blue. It goes really quite purple, doesn't it, in the lighter areas? Geez, I've gone over time, have I? No. A few more minutes. I just wanted to get half of it done, and then if you guys wanted to use these same techniques on the other side, then you can. I think I'm going to have to do a few layers of this. So I'm trying to keep it really light over these lighter faded out areas of the background, and then going darker in the darker areas. So you'll still be able to see these little flecks of light through there, and then we can go back over the top of those and add in some white just to blend them out a little bit, make them look a little bit more smudged, I guess. This is Zest-It. Zest-It. This one's on a sponge, but I've got a bit of cotton in there at the moment because I had some leftovers and I've stuck it on a cotton bud. And it turns it purple. I like it. It's pretty groovy. You could use Gamsol or Vaseline or some other pencil blender would do the same thing. You don't have to use that one. Sometimes alcohol can do it, so a colourless blender, or just want to wipe that out, that area. Anything like that. You know what? PanPastel would actually look really good in the background here too. You could do the same kind of thing with PanPastel. I'm going to use the white to lighten up those areas. So we've got those little white clouds of, I don't know, galaxy, are they? Galaxy? Yeah. I think that's what they are. Stars and planets and... stars and planets and galaxies. How's that going to look? It's getting there gradually, but I think we need a little bit more colour in here, which I might do with the light ochre maybe. Just a little bit of hair colour coming through there. You just need to now add whatever needs to go, whatever needs to fit in there. So I've done a little bit more hair so it doesn't look too grey, a little bit more of the ochre. And I think I can use some more of the light sky blue, just slightly in this section of the veil. And I want to add a little bit of purple in there too, I think. So let's use the periwinkle blue as well. Just really lightly. And then going back over it with the white, just to blend it out. good so far. I can hear Nani getting upset. She wants to come and say hello, I think. We need a little bit more blue in here, so I think I used the night blue, didn't I? And I'm going to do exactly the same on the opposite side, so there will be nothing that I do different. So you won't be missing out on anything if I finish it off camera. Just added a little bit more colour in there. Periwinkle. Still a bit slippery here from the from the other stuff that I was using. But I was thinking, let's just have a look at something. I have this really dark blue in the PanPastel, dark purple I should say. And I was just thinking, it's called Violet Shade. That we might be able to do a similar thing with the violet. I'm going to just go over that white gel pen there again. Because you guys were talking about PanPastel, I just went, oh, actually that would work too. It's going to be messy though. But I think we should be able to do a similar kind of thing. And then using white over the top. Ah! Just grabbed more purple by accident then. I've got another one here somewhere. There it is. I accidentally picked up the wrong colour. White. White. And then purple again. And then obviously I'm going to have to go back in with the white paint pen again and just redo those little spots, but I quite like that too. I think that's pretty. I always forget when I do Monday streams, I could use anything. It's my time. It's my time. It's my time, my time. High time, it was my time. I'm just going to have to be real careful though, because it's going to go over all the white if I'm not careful. I don't have any paper towel or anything to clean off that brush a bit. Picking up some of that purple I don't want. That would be Nani bashing on the door, saying, "Come on, it's time to finish. Mummy, what are you doing?" Oh, Nani. Hey? Can you hear her? Poor little thing. I'll come and get her in a minute. Okay, same kind of thing. Just blended that out with my finger a little bit. That's where the it's sticking kind of weird there because I had that other stuff on there, but we get the idea. Go back over with that white. I actually quite like that a lot better. It's a lot deeper, and the transition between the light and the dark areas is a little bit neater. I'll come up here and do up there again later, but for now I think we're done. I hope you enjoyed this one, guys. I will pop the color list up on Patreon, and for those patrons that would like to have a go at this in another brand of pencils. And I'll go grab Nani and she can say goodbye to you all, I think. She's getting very upset out there. She's like, come on, Mum. Come on, Mum. Let's do this. Come on, Mum. Let's do it. She's going to look pretty when she's finished. What's the matter? What's the matter? Hello. Come and say hello to everyone. No. Okay. Okay. Here we go. Oh, what? Say hello? Say hello. You speak. Speak. Good girl. Let's just move that out the way. Here's her little head. Oh God, her big head, I should say. You got such a big head now. You have. You got such a big head now. All right. Say bye. Say bye. Oh, you big baby. Oh, you big baby. I'm being attacked. Thank you so much. I'm getting tongue in the ear here. And look at this tail going. She has got so big and huge now. I can't even get her up on my desk. She'd just bowl everything over. And she's about 10 kilos now. She's huge. But yes, I will finish this one off, and we'll get all of this sort of look over this side as well. And then I'll do her crown. That's probably the only thing that I haven't given colours for, but we'll get in there and do her slobber kisses, all right? I know I won't be able to pick her up. I'm having trouble now. I know, Bubba. Hey? She's happy now. She's got to cuddle off Mum. Good girl. All right, guys. See you later. Thanks again for watching.